So we're here with Maximus Lally. We're just going into his pro debut, which is really everyone's looking forward to. I've been looking forward to it for a long time. But to get to where he is now, we had to start somewhere. So talk to us about your journey into MMA. Like, what brought you to it to begin with?
What kind of brought me towards MMA was the kind of lack of training that I was getting in jiu-jitsu throughout lockdown. Before MMA, I have been doing jiu-jitsu since I am 9 years old. So nearly just a little over 10 years now. I've grappled and competed in wrestling, jiu-jitsu at the highest level that I could all throughout me as a kid, all throughout my teenage years. And once kind of the initial lockdown hit, I was kind of just grappling with my dad, drilling, doing rounds or whatever like that. And kind of when things opened up a bit more, I was trying to kind of look for high level jiu-jitsu training, but I couldn't really get it anywhere. So what I decided to do was I decided to go down to SPG Charlestown and start doing some of the MMA classes. Got smashed, got battered, and me having the kind of competitive mind and the strong mindset that I have is, in my head I was like, I need to get better at this, I need to get good at this, and one thing spiraled into the next and I started competing in MMA.
Yeah, so what was it that actually brought you to Charlestown? Was it because also we know Conor McGregor's striking coach, Owen Roddy,
Yep.
one of the best coaches in the country. Was that one of the factors that led into your decision, or?
So Roddy is one of my first original jiu-jitsu coaches. I was first introduced to Owen, I think it was 11 or 12. When I got brought down to SVG HQ. He at the time was currently looking over the Grown Gorillas program, and I got introduced to him. And I think I came into the gym, I think it was a yellow belt or an orange belt or whatever like that, and I was training under a Brazilian team, Checkmat, at the time, and the club kind of fell through a bit, so I didn't really have anywhere to train. So my dad brought me up there. I remember my dad telling me that, like Roddy said, I'll give him a look, and if he's the level that he's at, like with his belt grade, I'll let him like keep the belt. But it's like, if I don't think he's up to the standard of, I think it was a yellow belt or an orange belt, I'll regrade him to the level I think he's suitable. And I went in, I did the class, he thought it was suitable for the belt, and then from there I continued to train with Roddy for another 4-5 years until he kind of took a step back from HQ to focus on his own gym. And then one path led down the next, and then I went back down to him. I was doing loads of his jiu-jitsu classes, wrestling classes, a few of his MMA classes on and off, and I kind of went to him and said, I want to fight MMA, and he kind of took me under his wing and started coaching me and giving me the finer details that I needed to improve, you know.
Yeah, I like what you said there actually about the fact that he'd regrade you. That takes a lot of kind of, I want to say, balls, because a lot of coaches might just let that slide, whereas he was like,
100%.
no, I'm like, if he felt you weren't as good as people have made you believe, he was going to bring you back to reality and
100%.
say, this is where you lie, you're not here, you're not there. But obviously he thought you were good for the belt, but it's good to see that coaches do that and they just don't let things slide.
Yeah.
But you wouldn't expect anything less from Owen Roddy. He wants the best.
100%. And it's like, I think it's very important if you have coaches that truly do care about you and truly do care about like you as a fighter, you as a person. The one thing they won't do is blow smoke up your arse. You know what I mean? They won't make you believe or have you in a different sort of reality. You know what I mean? I think it's essential for all fighters to have that coach that if you're flying up too high, they'll bring you back down to earth. You know what I mean? And let you know what needs to be worked on or what needs to be kind of said or improved on, you know.
Yeah, and it's better that happens in the training room as opposed to in a fight.
100%. And I always say it. I say it multiple times a week in the gym when I'm in the gym. It's like you rather experience things in the training room or on the mat sparring or whatever it might be than in a fight. You know what I mean? Because you experience something new in a fight, it's gonna be hard to deal with. Whether you experience as much things in the training room as possible, you're gonna be able to adjust a lot better, you know.
Yeah, I think it was, I want to say Craig Jones or Gordon Ryan maybe said that
Yeah.
they lose all the time in the training room. That's why you don't see them lose.
That's why you don't see them lose. And it's like, it doesn't matter what happens in the training room. It's like, you're only as good as your last performance. And it's not what you guys see when I'm fighting. You know what I mean? It's what the spectators see when I'm fighting. Whatever happens in the training room, it happens. It gets forgotten about. And the next 2 training sessions the next day, it's like it's a fresh start. You know what I mean? If you're getting caught with something, you work on it. It's fairly straightforward. Like, MMA isn't that complicated of a sport. You know what I mean? It's like all the knowledge is accessible to us. You know what I mean? You're watching guys in UFC fight at the highest level. Like, all the knowledge is there. It's just up to yourself to critique these you know, the exploits that you have in your game. And it's like, if you're not doing that, or you're not trying to improve, it's like you're gonna get found out, you know.
And would you say yourself, obviously, you said obviously Owen Roddy sorry, would be critical and he'll bring you back down to earth. And are you quite critical of yourself? Because sometimes self-awareness is not something that everybody has. I know people who've been in jobs and they think they're brilliant, but they're not, and they're delusional. Yeah. And it's hard for them to see their own faults. And it is for a lot of people. But you seem, from speaking to you before even we started here, we mentioned that your level of knowledge or your views on things are much beyond your age. Like, are you self-critical of yourself? Like, would you watch over and look for the holes in your game?
And this is just my thought in general. It's like every high-level athlete is critical of themselves. It's like, I've never spoke to a high-level athlete or a high-level competitor of any sort that is not critical of themselves. I think it's a necessity if you're competing at a high level. And I find if you're not like that and you think everything's great, you know, it can benefit you mentally and have you in a kind of positive mindset. But at the end of the day, when I'm going out to fight, I want to make sure absolutely every area has been covered on things that I need to do, whether it's cardio, whether it's striking, wrestling, jiu-jitsu, whatever it might be, that it's covered and that it's been worked on. And that's what gives me the positive mindset that it's like, I've put absolutely everything into this training camp or into my few weeks of training, and it's like, I know if I lose tonight or if I don't get the result that I want to get, that I've simply lost someone that's better than me, you know what I mean, and that's it. But it's like with the likes of Sergey, Collie, Owen and John, them 4 guys, they're really down to earth, you know. If something's not getting worked on and something needs to improve, it's said, and I'm grounded. I trust these guys enough to be like, cool, what do we need to do? And that's it, like, you know what I mean?
And then we were going into when you started competing, so obviously you would have competed in jiu-jitsu because you've been doing it so long.
Yeah.
What was the major difference you found? What was it for your first time competing? I know it would have been at cadet, so you wouldn't have had like the headshots on the ground and stuff like that. But what was it like going in, and what was your first competition?
So I think actually my first ever MMA fight was a teens expedition fight in FAI. I think I fought someone out of Next Generation, one of Rodney Moore's lads. I can't remember his exact name or whatever like that, but that shot was a teens fight, and it was headshots, and that was my first fight. I took him down and armbarred him kind of straight away, but I just kind of remembered getting a bit more of let's say a kick out of it, you know what I mean? In the sense of grappling, I find it's a lot more of a technical sport. In jiu-jitsu, I find there's guys who can be as small as 55 kilos and submit someone who is 90 kilos. I think it's kind of remarkable. It's really good. But in the sense of MMA, I think you need to be a bit more of like an athlete. Does that make sense? Because there's so much more areas that need to be covered. I think in jiu-jitsu, Like you do your technique, you know, you do your drilling, you do your hard rounds in jiu-jitsu, you do your wrestling, your strength and conditioning, and that's kind of the areas that you need to cover to excel at that sport. But then it was like I was kind of looking at MMA, and it's like there's so much boxes that I need to check off, and it kind of intrigued me a bit because it's like it's more things for me to work on, you know what I mean? So even if I get better at a slower kind of pace, at least I'm expanding these areas, you know what I mean? And that's what kind of initially like got me into it. And fast forward a bit of time, I was going to do the cadet IMAFs in 2019 in Italy, but I was actually away in America. At the time I was training in Henzo Gracie's in New York City with some of the Danaher Death Squad at the time, and they were all together. I competed in a beach wrestling tournament. I competed in Naga King of the Beach, which is like a big kind of grappling tournament, you know. So I was competing at high level in grappling as much as I could all over the world, but I kind of just got pulled towards MMA a bit more, you know.
Yeah.
It excited me more. I kind of had the jiu-jitsu style of people would describe that as trying to take the head off your man. You know what I mean? It was aggressive. It was fast paced. I was always on the front foot. I was trying to smash them and hurt them from top, bottom, whatever it might be. And some would say I kind of had the style for MMA. You know what I mean? With the heavy wrestling and the heavy kind of guard passing. So I decided, I think it was 2020, I think it was about September, October 2020, that I would train as hard as I could. I was still 17 at the time, so I wasn't eligible to fight amateur MMA, but I said that I would go out and I would put 110% into a training camp towards the IMAF cadets, and I fought for my spot on that team. I think I had 2 fights for that, and then flew over to Bulgaria and competed for Ireland at the IMAF cadets in 2021.
And that was quite remarkable. You beat 4 people in one day.
It was. I fought that in the cadets, it was the same day weigh-in. I fought that at 170 pounds, which is welterweight. So I had my wrestling coach Sergey come over with me. 2 of my teammates, Alex Keogh and Brandon Blake, both were there as well. Both of them lads were competing. And yeah, like a lot. Like I know it's 4 fights in one day or whatever, but it was like I went over there and I wasn't expecting anything less than gold. Because of the amount of work that I put in, the amount of hours that I put in was like remarkable. Like, you know what I mean? I was still in school at the time. It was before I kind of left school. I would be going into school and leaving early so I could get 2 sessions in. You know what I mean? There'd be some days I wouldn't even go to school at all, and I just go to the gym, do 2-3 sessions a day, and that's what it was from October right up until the end of July. For that, I had never won a world title previously, and I really made sure that I was gonna win my first one that year, you know, and I did.
And how did it feel when you did it? And you also came up against another Irishman, which just shows the levels that's in the country.
Yeah,
how did it feel to get that victory and get the medal?
It was great. I had in my first fight. I fought a game American who had actually won it in Italy in 2019. He was my first fight, possibly one of the toughest draws of the bracket. You know, it was straight elimination. So I was going in against possibly one of the bestest guys in the bracket. You know. And if I lost, I was out of competition straight away. So I got the ball rolling on that. I out-wrestled, out-grappled him. Had a lot of kind of submission attempts, beat up his legs pretty bad with calf kicks and teeps. I won that by a decision. And then in my second fight, I got drawn Russia. I came across really game Russian. Super, he was really big for the weight. I think he's like 6'2". I'm only like 5'9" or 5'10" or whatever it might be, you know. But same thing. Oh yeah, out grappled him for 3 rounds, multiple submission attempts. It was even like there was no headshots, but it was even like on the ground, digging into his body with teeps, calf kicks, making him kind of feel like he had to get the takedown, taking his back, whatever. But I won that via like a pretty dominant decision. And then in my third fight, I fought Israel. I submitted him in the 4th round with a guillotine. And then I came across Jordan Scully out of SPG Tullamore, one of Kieran Darvin's lads. I actually Jordan comes down to Nace most Fridays, most days during the week for wrestling. So I train with him quite a lot, you know. Super nice fella, you know. But I really did feel like I was like a man on a mission that day, and they could have put a UFC champ in front of me, and I would have tried to go through them like a hot knife through butter, you know. And I caught a jumping arm bar then on Jordan in the 1st round of the fight and won the gold medal, you know.
That's it. That was some draw, wasn't it? So you get the person who won it previously, then you get a Russian.
Yeah.
Then obviously you get Israel, and after going through all the hardship of that, then you know how to go out and defeat an Irish person in the final.
And it's like, and as I said, I don't think I could have got anyone tougher in the finals.
Yeah.
You know, because it's like, it's fair enough. It's you represent your country. It's a huge thing. But when 2 Irish men get in the finals, it's a free for all. You know what I mean? It's who wants it more. You know what I mean? And that's what it is. It's down to the individual. It's all good. I think it's great going out representing your country. But when I seen that Jordan was in the finals against Jordan, it kind of came down to, it's like, okay, this is down to the individual now. It's like, who wants it more? You know what I mean? And on the day I caught Jordan, you know, Jordan was humble in defeat. I was humble in victory, you know. We shook hands, and I think it was a big achievement for 2 Irishmen at the top level of under 18s amateur MMA to bring back a gold and a silver in a stacked division. You know what I mean? There was some really tough guys in that division, and you know it was good to kind of get rewarded for all the hard months of training I put in for that, you know.
Yeah, I can imagine, and like I know Jordan as well. He's a good guy. We're down in Tullamore, but like it comes down to, if it's Ireland versus Ireland final, it's you or me basically.
And it's like, and that's the thing. It's in MMA. It's not like cycling or football. It's not a team sport. It's an individual sport. You know what I mean? I am all for getting behind fighters, getting behind fellow Irish fighters, and you know, getting them out on the big stage. But it's like, you have to remember what you're in this for. You know what I mean? And it's like, sometimes in situations like them, it's like you have to be selfish. You know, and I think any high level competitor, it's like, if they have a chance to win their first world title, they're gonna dive on it with 2 hands, you know. And you know, I wouldn't say it was unfortunate, because it was great for 2 Irish lads. Like when me and Jordan were fighting, the cage was surrounded with hundreds of people, you know what I mean? Because it was like, like 2 Irish lads in the final. The division, there was about 25 lads in the division, you know what I mean? I can't remember if I got a bye or not, but I just know I had it was straight elimination, and I had 4 fights to win the gold medal, and that's what happened, you know.
Yeah, and then from there, obviously, you went on to amateur. Your first fight, I wanted to make sure this is correct, your fighting championship, wasn't it?
It was there was their first ever show, and it was 4 weeks after the World Championships.
And you finished that fight as well, rear naked choke.
It was indeed, yeah, 1st round.
How did that, because obviously that was their first show, I think you and I think Conor McCarthy might have debuted on that as an amateur as well.
He did, yeah.
Because he trains with you in Charlestown as well. So how did it feel going into an amateur show? But at the time it was COVID as well.
Yeah.
So there wasn't really a crowd. Like, what was it like making that step into amateur? Did it feel any different to you, or was it just...
I really do feel like the years of competing at high level jiu-jitsu in different countries, and then even just being away in Bulgaria, I feel like that it really did benefit me for amateur MMA because it was my amateur MMA debut. But it was like, not that I didn't care, but it was just like, it was more exciting than anything else, you know. Porrick had a handful of amateur fights. I could have probably debuted against someone that was making their debut as well, you know. But Porrick got given to me. I think he had 12 amateur fights, and I just jumped at it and said, the more experienced guys I fight, the better I'll become. So let's do it, you know. And was able to get him out of there fairly quick, you know. And I think I made my debut. I had just gone 18 that August, you know, and I then started to get the ball rolling then, and I'm fighting. I think I fought every month after that.
Yeah, because there was parts where you were very, very active, like that you went through, and you got a title shot fairly quickly as well. Do you want to talk about that? Your first title shot, you said it was kind of, you didn't realise it was your first title, coming up close to it, and that was with the first event I was at, because I remember, I don't have the footage anymore, I'm sure it's on my page so I can download it, but when you pick up Andrew, and then I showed it to one of my friends, and he goes, you know what I love? It was like a primal scream out of you as you ran with him across. What was it like finding out, obviously, that close to the show that it was actually for a title? And then how did you feel with the fight? Because Andrew was quite experienced at that stage.
Yeah, no, he was. And even after that fight, he went on to win the National MMA Championships for IMAF.
I think he hasn't lost since.
I don't know if he has or not, but I just know he won the Irish kind of IMAFs after that, you know, beat some great guys in the country at amateur. But yeah, no, I think the best thing about that, it was at like a catch weight at 73 kilos. I kind of, earlier in my career, like the first few fights, cutting weight wasn't really a big thing for me. Because for me it was about getting the experience that I needed, you know. And for me, getting the experience that I needed was to fight whoever I could, whenever I can, at whatever weight I could get, you know. And Andrew came up at 73, fought a previous teammate of mine, Scott Harvey, who's now up in FAO, you know. So I felt very, very confident, you know. A lot of people were kind of, I wouldn't want to say undermine me, but I definitely did feel like it was a bit more of a challenge. I don't think, like, it's a challenge that I would have liked, you know. Before the fight, I think Andrew was undermining me a tiny bit, you know, and I just kind of had in my head that it's like, I'm going to make this fight a living hell for you for 9 minutes, and there's not a single thing you're going to be able to do about it. And I feel like that's what I did in that fight, you know. I really heavy kind of grappling. I dropped him in the first round with a right hand. I think the reason the fight didn't get finished was, as I said, the inexperience, you know, of me never dropping anyone before, you know. I hit him with a right hand, I got really excited, jumped on top of him, kind of trying to grapple, you know. But as I said, it's like that fight brought me on levels, you know, towards me next one. I think getting 3-round fights in for amateurs are essential. You know what I mean? You learn a lot about yourself, because it's like when you're tired and your body's full of lactic acid and you're out of breath, it's like, are you gonna keep charging forward, or are you gonna kind of shy away and let your opponent kind of take advantage of you? But I just made sure for that fight that I wasn't losing a second of every round, you know. That I wasn't going to get taken down, I wasn't going to get outworked on the feet, on the ground, wherever it may be, you know. And I did that. I think I won all the 3 rounds, and I won that I think it was a super lightweight belt for Cage Legacy, and that was my second amateur fight.
Yeah, that's mental. Then obviously there was your fighting championship. They wanted to do the lightweight tournament, wasn't it? And that's how you and Maga came about.
Yes, so
you were the only ones that said actually yes to it, I think.
So what happened was, it was supposed to be 2 fights in the one night. I think that would have been unbelievable for myself, only having 2 amateur fights, fighting guys who was much fights as Maga. There was a few names that were kind of thrown into the mix, but what they ended up doing was, because me and Maga were the only ones that actually said yeah to fighting, we ended up fighting for that lightweight title, and that was another tough 3-round fight. Fighting an opponent that was much bigger than myself really kind of was an eye-opener to, okay, you can't really get away with this, because I always found in jiu-jitsu I was always fighting the bigger guys, and I was kind of getting away with it, you know. And in that fight, I started to have problems with my left shoulder that kind of affected me later on, kind of down the road in my amateur career. But as I said, it was another 3-round fight. It was a really tough fight, and it was very beneficial towards myself to get that experience of going the full distance, of learning what I'm good at and what I need to work on, because I think sometimes we perform a bit better in the gym, and then in a fight you mightn't necessarily meet them standards that you're setting in the gym. Does that make sense? And I feel like that was a certain point of me where it was like in my own head it was kind of like I've won a world title and I beat 2 good guys at amateur, and it was like, I started to kind of believe my own hype a tiny bit, you know. And I kind of made that realization and kind of grounded myself a bit, and humbled myself, you know, and kind of changed the way I trained in the gym a bit, as if I was put myself in, I wasn't doing what I was good at, I was doing what I was bad at. I wasn't solely sticking to grappling, I was trying to strike on the feet a bit more, you know. And I feel like in my next few fights that really kind of started to up me level as an amateur MMA fighter, you know.
Yeah, it was quite a kind of baptism of fire coming in, title shots.
Yeah.
And then getting because like you said, you wanted to fight the toughest people all the time. You've touched a bit on training there as well, and one thing I want to talk to you about is I find it quite interesting, and I think it should happen a lot more with people, obviously, if it suits them. But you train. Owen Roddy would be your
MMA coach. Yeah.
MMA coach. Then you've got Sergey as your wrestling coach.
Yep.
Then you've got Collie Matta now at DCA, which obviously Craig Coakley's going to one championship.
Yeah.
Sen and Coakley, there's a host of killers there. What made you look at that? Was it because, like you said, when we spoke, you brought up earlier that there's so many different parts of the game. Did you look and go, well, I want the best person kind of in those sections?
Well, I started wrestling with Sergey when I was 12, and I had kind of been in and out of Collie's gym. I went down to Lionheart in town a few times, and then when he opened up there in Fisborough, I went down a few times for a few kind of sessions. But I always knew if I was ever going to make the transition into MMA, I needed to be down with Collie, and I needed to be wrestling with Sergey as much as possible. And that's what I did. I am a firm believer in mixed martial arts. You need to train with the best people in the best areas, and I feel like that's just what I did. I took it upon myself to do that, to improve, you know, and I feel like it benefited me hugely. And I think that it is definitely something that all fighters should do if they want to improve. It's very important to train MMA also, because MMA is a sport in itself, you know what I mean. I think that if I'm going out and I'm sparring with guys who are kind of more Muay Thai orientated, it's like I need to find things that work for me in MMA and add that in whatever way I see fit. Go to Roddy for kind of, let's say, validation or whatever, you know what I mean. Yeah. And that's the kind of the process that I was kind of doing early in my amateur MMA career, you know. Even when I'm hitting pads with Collie kind of changes his pad style for me specifically to be more MMA, where he's feinting the takedowns and he's adding in the knees to the face, elbows to the face, knees to the body, you know. So like all them little things, it's like they all add up, and like really did. It was like I was kind of at I was developing at, let's say, like a rapid pace, you know, for someone who was only properly got into MMA. I think it was a year and a bit at that stage, you know. But it really did benefit me having the 3 lads, Sergey, Roddy and Collie, in me corner, backing me, you know. Gave me a bit of confidence, because they're 3 names that are like 3 of the highest level names in combat in Ireland, you know. So to have 3 lads like that in your corner, it's kind of in the back of my head. It's like who's gonna beat me, you know? Because it's like these three men have put their faith in me and have put hours and hours and hours into me, and it's like they're not doing that for no reason, you know. They see something in me, and it's up to me now to put in that work to prove myself right, prove them right, and show everyone what I'm capable of, you know. And I think that's what kind of got me through a lot of my fights, you know, having that background support of the three lads, you know.
Yeah, like that, you're undefeated going into pro, but you leave no stone unturned as well. I'm going to talk to you about John Connor, the Irish Training Institute, and also it was a Philly McMahon as well on the mental side as well.
Philly
so
as well, yeah.
You've really looked at not just the fighting aspect, your strength, conditioning, there, and then obviously the mental side, which I think is often overlooked, because fighting is hugely mental. It's probably more mental than it is physical at times. I think sometimes someone with a better mentality can beat someone who might be physically stronger than them.
So the story there, I was with Philly. I started with Philly. I was actually originally doing strength and conditioning with him and doing a bit of a few things on the mental side with him as well. And I was with Philly right up until I tore my labrum in my shoulder. I had to get surgery to repair it. That was over in the IMAFs in Abu Dhabi. I had 2 fights. I fought a Estonian and a Mongolian, and I tore my labrum completely off the bone in the fight against the Mongolian. I won the 2 fights but had to withdraw from the competition. I was in serious pain with it, you know. So I got a scan on that, an MRI, and it was torn and stuff like that, and I had to kind of go into rehab. And at the time, John Connor was he was helping me with my kind of weight cut. I wouldn't even call them weight cuts. I was cutting about 4 kilos, let's say, at most. But he was showing me the kind of, let's say, the correct way to fuel myself for training sessions, because in that area I was still a bit immature, you know. I was eating a bit of like crap food, and let's say wasn't fueling myself as well as I could have, like any kind of teenager, you know. And John was a big help on that side, but John really helped me rehabilitate my shoulder to the kind of, let's say, as close to me right shoulder as I possibly could.
Yeah.
His whole thing was, you want to be able to do things with your left shoulder that you can do with your right shoulder without even thinking about it. And like, I want to say, when you get surgery on something, only people who have gotten surgery will know what I'm on about, but there's also a lot of mental kind of involved with it as well, because it's the fear is still there. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It took me a very long time. I kind of got cleared to train. I tore it in January. I got the surgery in March, and then I was cleared to train the start of September, and it took me from September right up till mid-December. I fought my first fight back from the shoulder surgery, and to be honest, the fear was kind of still there. I was doing more things off my right side than I would have been with me left, because the kind of fear was still there. But with in regards to Philly McMahon, he was a big help. With a lot of mental things that we talked about, was I would have considered myself back then a real kind of black and white thinker, as I like to call it, you know. It's one way or it's the other, you know what I mean? And I think that way of thinking is beneficial in some things, but in the outlook of life in general, it's like he kind of showed me that I'm not just an MMA fighter, and that's what I kind of had the mentality of, that this is my sport and this is all I'm good at. I'm not good at anything else. And you know, it kind of played in with my kind of mental health a bit, you know, because it was like, once I kind of got that shoulder surgery and I wasn't able to do what I loved, it was kind of like, well, where do I go from here now? You know what I mean? It's a waiting game. And it really did kind of affect me mentally. I put on a bit of weight and I wasn't able to train, and it was very minimal what I could do for 3 months. Now, 3 months doesn't sound that long for some people, but for an athlete who trains 3 times a day, to be told you can't do what you always did, it was really tough. And it was kind of like, the first maybe week and a half of not training was nice, but then it was like a month in, it felt like I was going crazy, you know. And Philly, like he really helped with that, you know. Once my shoulder started to, let's say, recover with the help of John, I started going to John then for my strength and conditioning, and he helped me a lot with losing fat mass and putting on muscle mass to help me compete. Because I was still, I know I'm only 20 now, but I was 18, going 19 at the time, and I was fighting fully grown men, you know. So he was helping me build on the explosive strength and power side of things, you know. And he's another man that it's, if he tells me to do something or something needs to get worked on, it gets done, and then that's it, you know. This is how much trust and belief I have in the four lads that are helping me get to my ultimate goals, you know.
Yeah, between the combat side, like the mental side, the strength, like it seems like you've all bases covered. And I think we talked about it, just it was kind of after your shoulder injury as well, that when you kind of burst onto the scene, everyone, like it was like you kind of exploded onto the scene, everyone's about you. And then did you find it hard when you were injured being away from that limelight as well?
Yeah, and like I'll be honest, that was the kind of getting back to that kind of black and white thinking. It was like, it was tough because one minute everyone's talking about you, and then the next it's like, if you're not fighting, there's nothing to talk about. You know what I mean? And it kind of made me develop a mentality of, it's like, these fights aren't really everything, you know, because the fights are gonna happen, and once the fights are over, no one's gonna remember what happened. No one's gonna care about. They're gonna be a little glimpse of the past, and that's all they'll really be. It's the biggest thing that I kind of took away from being injured, that it's like, these fights, if they develop you as an athlete and develop you as a fighter, that's the most important thing, you know, not the highlight reel submissions or the highlight reel big takedowns or anything like that, you know. It's the most important thing for me was being able to go in and enjoy my training, you know, and that's what I feel like the injury kind of showed me, was that it's like, let's not take this for granted ever again. This is something that you enjoy doing. This is something you love doing. So show it when you fight. You know what I mean? Like, let fight and enjoy it. Like, you know what I mean? Because before it was kind of just like the graft and the hard training and the hard work, and it was, let's say, yeah, it was the way I was training at the time. But when I kind of got back from the injury, and took me a while to get back into things, having to get the face punched at me for a few weeks, and kind of getting the cardio and the fitness back, let's say, once I kind of got all that back and I wasn't, let's say, struggling as much, I really kind of started to enjoy it, you know. And Philly, with the help of Philly, you know, it kind of made me the realisation that it's like, I'm not just an MMA fighter, I'm doing something that I'm passionate about and that I enjoy doing. If whatever reason it doesn't work out, it's like that there is plenty of other kind of things out there, you know. And I wasn't kind of, let's say, putting all me chips into one corner, you know, because I find what happens is you put your chips all into one corner, and for whatever reason something doesn't work out, you have this big mental breakdown, and there's kind of, let's say, no purpose there. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
In the time that I was injured, I grew a lot closer to my father, my mother, my little brother, and a lot of people around, which was nice, you know what I mean. And once I kind of got back into training, I really started to enjoy it more. Does that make sense? It was a lot more smiling, a lot more laughing, a lot less, I want to say a lot less seriousness, but it was like the hard training was still occurring, but it was a lot more enjoyable because it was taken away from me for so long. So once I kind of got back into that, you know, I had a fight in December, and then I fought 2 weeks later over in the UK, and then that was kind of the end of that was 2021. That was the end of that year. So I still managed to get 4 amateur MMA fights in that year with the shoulder surgery, and I was quite happy about that, you know.
Yeah, which was remarkable considering the type of injury.
Yeah, no,
that you had.
it's quite a serious injury. Yeah.
Yeah, because we weren't even sure if you were going to come back for the Cage Legacy, and I remember that at the time, like, will you be ready? Won't you be ready?
Yeah.
And obviously, you came back, and you've gone through your career, and we talked before, and you said you wanted to get up to 20 fights. You've got to a stage in your career where obviously your last fight, Tiernan Loughran, like, he was the only one who wanted to fight, wasn't he? He was the only one game to fight.
Yeah, and like let's say I don't like there's some people I don't like kind of making the assumption that this person said no, he's a pussy. You know what I mean? I don't like
There could
making
be different reasons.
It could be different reasons. The time mightn't necessarily be right. I originally had a scheduled opponent and he pulled out due to an injury. And it was really frustrating to hear because it was like I was 8-0 at that stage and I couldn't see myself getting a replacement in 2 weeks' time for a fight. Does that make sense? And that's where the kind of the frustration, let's say, came out of, you know. But in 2 weeks' notice, Tiernan stepped in, fair ball to him, you know what I mean? It's one thing to take a fight on 2 weeks' notice, but me and Tiernan were scheduled to fight a few times, and we were supposed to fight in February, and the time wasn't necessarily right for himself, and whatever like that. But the fight ended up getting made, and he showed up, and we had a great fight, you know. So, you know, it was good. As I said, it was one of them beneficial fights that improved me, and probably improved himself as well. You know, I think those are the fights that need to be made. You know what I mean? Because it's like, that is high level amateur MMA. You're not even going to see that high level of mixed martial arts in some pro fights, you know? And I think those are the fights that bring you on levels, you know?
Yeah, no, 100%. That was a fantastic fight. And like, I think the February when it was supposed to be made, I think he was in his transition from moving back to Ireland.
Exactly.
Wasn't he? And see, it's things like that. When people don't turn up to a fight, they're all like, they don't want to fight. Like you said, it's not like that.
Yeah.
It's most times it could be someone could be carrying an injury,
100%,
and they could be like, you know what? It's not. We don't want to work. But
now, I was supposed to fight the start of that year on, I think it was IUR. I was looking for a fight, and once kind of Tiernan pulled out, there wasn't a suitable replacement, you know. So that kind of got scrapped, and I was planning for IUR and Cage conflict, and that was the kind of plan I remember for the start of the year. And IUR kind of fell through when Tiernan pulled out, and I couldn't really get a suitable replacement. So I didn't end up getting put on that show. But I think it was like, it got to the stage where it was like I was that desperate for a fight, where it was just like, if I need to fight, like, you know what I mean? I am a believer in staying active and fighting improves you, because it's like you're putting yourself under kind of, I don't want to say pressure, because it's not really pressure, but it's you're putting yourself in the limelight, you know what I mean? And it's all about how you perform out there, you know what I mean? It doesn't matter how you perform in the gym, you know, I've said it, but it's how you perform out there. That's the most important thing. And I think that if you can perform against a high level amateur like that in Belfast, you know, in that crowd, you know, I feel like you can do a lot of things. So that's the challenge I was kind of looking forward to. A few weeks out from that fight, I'm not too sure if I broke them. I definitely did something to them, but I had really, really badly hurt 2 ribs. So I was very limited to what I could do for about 4-5 weeks. At the time, Roddy and Sergey were not in the country. They were away for the Ultimate Fighter, so it was kind of like I was kind of guiding my own kind of training camp. I was wrestling a few lads that were a bit bigger than me. I ended up getting thrown and landed on, and I heard a kind of a pop in my ribs, and I remember for 4 weeks it was sitting up, was very laughing, sneeze, and that was very difficult. But it was kind of like, I need to fight, and it was that desperation to fight, and it really kind of showed myself how mentally strong I am, you know what I mean? Because it's like, with an injury like that, you can easily pull out a fight, but it's like, I kind of got offered that fight with Tiernan, and it was like, this is the fight that I need, you know what I mean? this is a fight that everyone wants. This is a fight that'll improve me so much. It's like, I was like, fuck it, let's do it, like, let's take it, you know what I mean? And by far, one of them fights that really did improve me as a fighter, you know, and really did excel me progress. And I think that's the biggest thing you can take away from any fight, you know.
Yeah, like that was a fight that had to be made, two high level lads, and that's what we need to see more of, because he was
100%.
game, you were game. There was a bit of banter before as well between
yeah,
you.
100%. Yeah.
Which added to it as well, and like that going into Belfast. But I'm going to wrap up the amateur career part for. So even from, let's say, from the cadets from Bulgaria to the end of your amateur career, I want you to pick a fight that you think you perform best. No, your favourite fight, just whether it be the crowd or anything like that, or just the venue or whatever. Your favourite finish, and then a fight that you learned the most from.
I'd definitely say my favourite finish. Let me think. I definitely think my favourite finish would be my first fight in the IMFs over in Abu Dhabi. I finished in Estonian with a rear naked choke. It was like one of them kind of it was like on the top, on like the top kind of back mount with the rear naked choke. And I just remember when I was getting up and I just seeing the kind of all the Irish lads in the crowd and looking up, and when I kind of looked up, I got a glimpse of myself on like a big screen with like an Irish flag on it, and then it was like Lally underneath, and I was kind of like, this is bleeding deadly. So I definitely put that up there with me favourite finish. My best performance, I'm very kind of critical on performances. I'm definitely, for my best performance, probably not the most, let's say, technical one, but I'm going to say my best performance will probably be against Maggie, just due to him being a much bigger opponent, and I kind of had to, let's say, dig deep in that fight, you know what I mean, to out wrestle and to out grapple someone who had definitely had a lot. We both weighed in at the same weight, you know. I didn't put too much weight to make lightweight at the time, but just to kind of have that, let's say, the technique and the grit to kind of get through someone like him was kind of proved a lot to myself. And what was the last one?
Favorite. And a fight you learn from the most, because obviously you haven't really lost the fight, but you can still learn things from the fight. So which one kind of?
I'm gonna say the fight against the Mongolian when I tore my shoulder. It's the first 45 seconds of the fight. He had actually body locked me and tripped me and took me down. I kind of ran up the cage, and like I just remember hearing this it was like, it felt like my shoulder dislocated. Now, at the time I didn't know if it dislocated or not, but the surgeon said it did because there was all chips on the socket of my shoulder. But what happened was my shoulder dislocated, and then somewhere in the scramble of me trying to get back up to my feet, it popped back in, and I just remember my left hand, it was just like nothing in it, like, you know what I mean? It was like, I can't even explain it. It was like someone was after, like, if any fighter knows, if they ever get the leg booted off them and your leg just felt stuck and dead. That's what me shoulder felt like, you know. And I just kind of went back to the corner. I had Kieran Davern and Sergey in my corner, and I was like, my shoulders after popping, like my shoulders like literally after popping, and Sergey was like doing his rub and stuff on it and trying to minute, but I just went out, and I was just like, I was kind of in the corner. I kind of got a glimpse of, I hope I'm able to fight tomorrow. But then it was like a thing where I was thinking, I need to make sure I'm alright for tomorrow. But then it was like, fuck tomorrow, let's just worry about now, you know what I mean? I had this fella, crazy Mongolian, the only Mongolian in the whole competition, trying to take the head off me, like, you know what I mean? Really good striker, really good kickboxer. So with the kind of shoulder problem, I managed to tough that fight out and to get the unanimous decision win with that, you know. And I just remember after the fight, like, even the ref he tried to hold up my left hand, and he got to about here, and I just pushed his hand off. I was like, don't even try and lift that. When like, it just kind of wasn't like, I think that it's very important to look after your body, and I feel like since the injury I've looked after myself, I'd say twice as much as I did previous, you know, like looking after myself in regards to recovery, diet, hydration, sleep, all the little small things, or making sure I'm doing everything correct to make sure nothing like this ever happens again, you know. But it was nice to have that kind of mental toughness where it's like, even if this left hand gets chopped off, I'm still gonna give it 110% to try kill you, you know what I mean? And that was kind of a nice kind of reassurance to have, you know.
Yeah, no, and what a fantastic amateur career you had, and that leads us into the pro. You're going to be making your pro debut at Cage Legacy. Cage Legacy and Dick Henna and Dan Sarnick are actually two people who've really put a lot into you though as well.
Yeah,
they've really,
100%.
really, like they've always tried to, you've seen they've done it with Sean and make you like the main attraction, creating a buzz. They've done it with yourself coming up as well. How does it feel to be making your pro debut on Cage Legacy because of what the lads have kind of done to this stage?
You know, like, and I know, like, something like this pro debut, like, it's something that I've thought about for a very, very long time, and it really does mean a lot to me, you know. Even when I was kind of doing the jiu-jitsu and kind of looking at, like, Conor McGregor coming up, and you're kind of looking at that, and it was kind of like, I could make my pro debut like one day, and now to make it at 20 years old, it is something very special to me, especially on Cage Legacy. Cage Legacy over the years have had me on for grappling fights loads of times, you know. Seeing some of the guys that have come up through Cage Legacy, some of the fighters, you know, it's nice to be headlining the card for my professional debut, and then also be on the card with a long time teammate and a good friend of mine, Gary Rooney, as well, you know. Like, it's nice, you know what I mean, and I'm really looking forward to it.
That's like, I was saying that on the car on the way up, to have a Max Lally debut and a Gary Rooney debut on the same card. Obviously Gary's fight fell through a Virtus, and that was unfortunate for them.
Yeah, 100%.
But for one man's misfortune is in another man's favour.
Exactly.
And it's really worked out for Cage Legacy here.
Exactly, and it's like even some of the amateur fights on the card are
lads,
high level amateur guys, you know what I mean? It really is, in my opinion, is like the biggest card that is being held in Ireland this year. You know what I mean? If you look at some of the fights on it, you know. Two huge professional debuts on it, and a lot of high level amateurs, and a lot of names that you could see in high level MMA representing Ireland in the near future, you know. So it's great to be a part of that, you know.
It's an exciting time, and I was at the last show that they had in that venue, and it was unbelievable. I think Ron was there as well. It was unbelievable. But for your pro debut, what changes training wise, or is it all the same, just a bit more intense?
Well, it's funny you say that. I think pro MMA and amateur MMA are two complete different sports. That's my opinion on it. I'm not too sure if anyone else agrees, but I think it's two complete different sports. I find in amateur MMA with 3-minute rounds, it's a lot quicker. So when rounds are shorter, you need to, let's say, work harder, or you've less time to work. So it's your first few, let's say, moves of the fight could be your most valuable, you know, because it's like sometimes you see an amateur MMA a takedown and someone kept on their back for 3 minutes. It's very sustainable for 9 minutes. It's a lot harder to do when it's 15 minutes long, you know, when it's a 5-minute round. So a lot of my training now has been changed to like takedowns and wrestling. I know I'm a high level grappler and stuff, but it doesn't mean too much now. It's like you need to be putting your opponent in jeopardy, and you need to be trying to finish a fight at any stage, you know what I mean? And that's what I've really tailored when I kind of made the realisation mid-June that I probably won't get another amateur fight in. I put my full focus into, let's say, I want to say training for the kill, you know, like, because that's what it's scored on now. That's you see it in fights. You see the striker getting taken down, getting back up onto his feet and landing big shots, and those are the guys that are winning fights. Those are the guys that are winning rounds. So it's like you need to adapt, or you stay the same and put yourself in the position where you take someone down and you're getting hit, it's like you could lose, you know what I mean? And to be honest, I think it makes the sport a lot more exciting, but it's like you need to adapt to that, and that's what I've done with the striking, with the elbows and knees to the head, now being able to elbow from the top, the ground and pound, every little small detail like that is all being taken in, it's all being accounted for, and that's why I'm really looking forward to this professional debut, because I think that it's going to be different to what you've seen in my amateur career, you know?
Yeah, well, your amateur career is fantastic. I can't wait to see what your professional career turns out to be, because I followed you from your second fight. I think I missed the first fight from the second. I'm going to let you go, but there's one more question I want to ask you. When it's all said and done, and it's all over in many years to come, what would you want to be remembered as? Or whether it be a fighter or a person, like when someone says Max Lally, what words you want to spring to people's mind?
Someone that gave it their all. And that's all you can do as a athlete, is give it your all. If I give it my all and for whatever reason it doesn't work out, I know that I'll have no doubt in my mind that everything was done the way it should have been done. You know, I want no regret, nothing like that, you know. I do believe I can get to the highest level in MMA possible. Like, I really do. I never have a doubt of it any day that I'm in the gym, any day that I'm training, you know. But I think that I'd like to be known for me work ethic, you know, and me, you know, being someone who has given it 110%, and I think that's all anyone can do, you know.
Perfect. Oh, thank you so much for your time.
Legend.
It's been an absolute pleasure.
Nice one.